Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. This podcast contains general information and is not in any way medical advice. When the weather's sunny, we all like being outside. Well, all right, let me dial that back. Maybe not every single one of the 8 billion people on the planet, but a lot of us do. And most people don't like being outside that much when it's cold and wet and drab, or if it's hailing or if it's snowing. Some work out of the US, and as usual, we'll put the reference down below. When the weather turns from cold and dreary to warm and cheery, most people enjoy spending as much time as they can outdoors, basking in nature to unwind and recharge. And they've done some work to try and find, well, what is the optimal amount of time? Now, I would argue that the optimal amount of time is as much as you want to and as much as you are able to, given that there are only 24 hours in every day, and we have a whole lot of other commitments that need to be fitted into those 24 hours. A poll of 2,000 Americans found on average people were wanting to spend 67 minutes outside every day to feel refreshed, and 57% of respondents plan to spend more time outside this year, so this is in the current northern summer, than they did last year. The analysis revealed of those who spend time outdoors, 68% said that spending time outdoors relaxes them. Now, that probably makes some sense, because if it doesn't, and I think for a lot of people it does, but if it doesn't, you might not do it. 66% believe it put them in a better mood, and 64% find that spending time outdoors helps them clear their heads. This has been shown previously, that when we're outside in nature, it can clear our mind. And there are probably two mechanisms for that, or reasons for that. Number one is that when we're outdoors, sounds obvious, but we're not indoors. What do we tend to do when we're indoors these days? We're probably on a screen. We might be on our computer. We might be on our phone. And look, it might be productive. It might be work, but it might also be not that productive on, Facebook or some other form of social media, which can be, has its role. I'm not saying we can't do it, but we can spend too much time on it. When we're outdoors, we can take our phone with us, sure, but we're less likely to. Because when we're outdoors, we're probably walking or doing some form of exercising, or, just relaxing at the beach, or maybe we're going for a swim. So we're going to be a little bit more focused on something other than our screens. And that immediately, that we're not on screens is good, because we're not cluttering our heads with the latest, cat video or, some sort of other story that's scrolled through TikTok or, again, whichever social media that you're on. We also know that time, that disconnect, apart from disconnecting being beneficial for us, that just straight up being in fresh air has benefits, and exposure to sunshine. Now, not getting burned, again, we don't want to get sunburned, but having time in the sunshine does improve our mental health. It just puts us in a better mood. When it's blue sky and sunny days and there's a bit of warmth in the air, we tend to feel better. It's been shown lots of times, and again, a bit like, you don't need to be a meteorologist to know when it's raining or not outside. You don't need to be a doctor or a psychologist to know that you may feel in a better mood when you're outside and there's some blue skies. Spending too much time indoors appears to have the opposite effect, with 38% saying too much time leads to feeling of depression, and 33% feelings of anxiousness. And again, all these surveys you have to take with a proverbial pinch of salt. But what it's saying is that in the modern world, if we spend too much time indoors, and, most of us these days, work is internal rather than external. 100 years ago, most of us probably worked outdoors. We didn't have to specially go out of our way to spend time in the fresh air. It just happened. Today, we do need to make some time, and it's important to make some time for it. So that's about prioritising. Yes, I want to spend some time each week. It might not be every day. If it is, that's great. But if it can't be every day, then at least a few days a week, outdoors. And that could include some exercise, but it doesn't have to. You might just go to the park, sit on the bench and watch the world go by. If you've got a pet, you can take your dog with you. You can throw a frisbee or a ball. You might go to the beach or to the river. You might play some form of sport that's outdoors. So there's a whole range of activity that you can do in the fresh air, which gets you off screens, gets you into the fresh air, gets you out into the environment. Walking in the bush, a lot of work shows also that some time in nature and that nature can be as simple as your neighbourhood park, that's fine, some greenery, that time spent in nature is beneficial for our mental health. And of course, if we're being active in some way, shape or form, then that's good for our physical and our mental health. There's a lot of possibilities for fun and adventure to be had spending time outdoors. Again, limited only probably to some extent by our imaginations and perhaps the laws of the land. We can get outside and do some cooking as well in warmer weather. Again, depending which hemisphere you're in, you can crank up the barbecue and do some cooking and then eat outdoors. Getting together with friends outdoors, going to a cafe, getting some coffee and sitting outdoors and having it. So all of these activities or pastimes, whatever term one wants to use, they're not therapeutic. Like, this is not something you have to go to the doctor and be told this is what you ought to do. So again, this is why you don't hear a lot about the health benefits of simple measures like spending time outdoors, because there's no money in it. There's no public health program, no professors getting paid to tell you to do this. So they don't. Maybe we shouldn't need to be told this. And I would argue that in an ideal world would be the case. But unfortunately, we've become so conditioned, and hopefully at some stage this will reverse, so conditioned that we sort of half feel the need to, I can't do anything unless they have told me that it's good for me or they have told me that I should do it. No, you can work out for yourself what is good for your own self and your own body. And our ancestors actually did this pretty well. Now, immediately people say, but they didn't live as long as we did. Well, that's true, but it wasn't because they weren't spending some time outdoors or they weren't eating more sensibly perhaps than what we did today. It's because they maybe were exposed to the elements, There weren't treatments for serious infectious diseases that we have today. So there's a whole lot of reasons that people had shorter life expectancies 100 and 200 and 500 years ago, but none of that is because they weren't getting a little bit of fresh air and sunshine. So health does not need to be difficult. It does not need to be expensive. There's no cost in going to your local park. So focus on, and again, obviously according to climatic conditions, so if it's cold and wet and you want to go outside, look, you can take a brolly, that's fine as well, but I think most people prefer to do it when it's warm and sunny and there's some blue sky. So prioritise that as part of just your general health and well-being. It's not a therapeutic, it's not a treatment for any specific condition, any more so than breathing air or drinking water is a treatment for any specific condition. It's just part of the way that you can be doing the best for your own health. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like and share. You can also follow it on all the socials. There'll be new content uploaded each week.